sure you want to do this?
It's not what I want.
It's a pretty song. I've never heard it before.
It's a new one.
Ed Sheeran's got a beautiful voice, and we knew he was a fan of the show, and we knew that Maisie was obsessed with him. So we always thought it would be fun to try to get him into a Maisie scene at some point.
When I first got the scene and I saw I was a Lancer soldier and it was with Maisie, I just assumed we'd all get killed at the end.
Action.
I don't want to steal your food.
You're not stealing, we're offering. Come on, it's going to be a cold night.
Just a nice moment for her to really enjoy human company without lies and trickery.
But I think the underlying theme is that, as in any war, the soldiers are just people and we are young boys.
She really enjoys just hearing their stories and finding a bit of normality again.
And I think she kind of realises that she can just kind of chill, let her guard down, have some food and crack some jokes.
So why is a nice girl on our own heading to King's Landing?
I'm going to kill the Queen.
And then to High Garden?
Then you go High Garden.
What is this?
It's what we've been waiting for our whole lives.
Shooting that map room scene was a really big thing, and very extensive conversations with Lena and Nikolai about that.
You afraid of me?
Should I be?
There's a great amount of need for revenge for her. Enemies to the south. It's like she needs to put everything to sleep that causes her pain. Enemies to the north.
And she's now just on this very driven, focused path to world domination.
And of course, we're introducing this whole new set, which is in this courtyard in the Red Keep, where there's a hand-painted map. Of course, you want to show this incredible thing, and also it has great metaphorical value. There she is walking all over the known world when thinking about, ruling it. So you kind of want to do justice to that aspect of it as well.
We thought that a painted map on the ground, that seemed like a good idea.
Enemies everywhere. We're surrounded by traitors.
We knew that Jim Staines, the graphic designer, would create something amazing, and he worked so hard on it.
We wanted to have some allusion to the opening title sequence. And that just meant using some of the lettering, some of the imagery, and coming up with good colors, and then working it out basically on a computer. Then we had an image which we could print out, which was the right size. Had to do pseudo-medieval drawings of towns, lots of lettering, lots of conversation with the designer especially. Then we had two guys come in, Dave Packard and Greg Winters, who came in to actually paint the image that I had designed onto the floor.
The man who is firmly but politely dismissed at the beginning of the scene by Jamie Lannister is indeed Jim Staines, who designed and created the map to begin with.
I don't think being down on his knees for quite so long was as much fun as he thought it would be, but he did well.
Very nice. Lovely. Okay, moving on.
Of what they are to each other. I don't know how that's gonna, I think kind of might be the reaction.
I like looking at her and going, oh God, I'm sorry, let's go again. I think they both know it's wrong. I think they both know it's going to cause problems. But it's that thing, when you suddenly feel that deeply about someone and you go through those events together, it's like a runaway train. You can't stop it happening.
Father, Smith, warrior.
To see that actually these were two people in love, and that this whole thing that started off the series of Game of Thrones, Robert's Rebellion, was a total lie, is kind of like, man. And what's going to be interesting is, for Bran, it's like, what am I going to do with this? Because just as everything was coming together, everyone was going to join together to fight, inevitably Game of Thrones will tear us apart once more.
It's dangerous for everybody involved. I'm sure it's good for both of them in the moment, but you don't even get the relief of how beautiful it could be or should be. It's not good. But it should be, but it's not. It's Game of Thrones. There's a long history of romance not ending well on this show.
Gotta go.
Proper wine for proper heroes. Yeah. Maybe I'm not the most pleasant man, I'll admit it, but
It's always interesting when you're starting a new season, and the question always is, what do you start with? You either start with something small to kind of ease your way in, or you just start with something huge and get it over with, and you can put that behind you. In this case, we started with something really huge.
Okay, everybody starting out there, and action.
that was your mistake. Leave one wolf alive, and the sheep are never safe.
And I love that scene, because you come into this and you're like, wait a second, Walder Frey's dead. How is this possible? What's going on?
I was thrilled that they'd made a full head prosthetic, which fitted my face, but I looked like David Bradley. As an actor, to really reveal yourself and take another face off your face rather than just pretend, that just made it a lot easier and a lot more fun, I guess.
It's the actors just kind of pulling on their own skin, really. And then it's really done in cuts, where the arm movement and where you place the camera, having Walder Frey do that, and then having Arya repeat that but from a different camera angle that looks like something's come off, and it's very effective. What makes it extremely effective is Maisie's performance, because she just sells it so beautifully. And I love the moment when she turns to Walder's wife and says,
When people ask you what happened here, tell them the North remembers.
I think it's a great opener for the season. I think it's a great reintroduction to Arya, where she's coming from and where she's heading.
She realizes her power, and I guess, yeah, maybe there is the argument that you didn't have to kill the whole Frey army, but they weren't good news. I don't think we'll miss them.
I think, starting with the Army of the Dead, basically why that's really important is that this is the common enemy. This is like the bottom line. This is what everybody in the end is going to have to face. It's the enemy that is beyond all enemies. It's like the one thing that nobody really knows how to fight. And so the big question is, are these people going to get their act together? Are they going to figure out a way to fight the big enemy, or are they going to just eat each other alive before that even happens?
So the Zombie Giants this year, we've got 2 returning cast. We've got Ian White and we've got Neil Fingleton, who was with us on season 4. They're similar makeups, but we have kind of interchangeable little bits and pieces, and we do a slightly different paint scheme. We can have different costume as well. So it's creating 4 different looks. So for the Whites, this year we decided that we'd up our game a little bit, and we've resculpted an awful lot of the zombies, their makeups. They're still very mix and match and generic, because we have a huge amount of stunt guys, but we just thought we would change things up and improve some of the sculpts. It's been a huge production line, but it's something we were able to use a few existing molds and then make a load of new stuff as well. Seymour.
There is some fun to be had, I think, in seeing Sam in this new environment where, he really came here to the kind of tower of knowledge to learn the secrets of the known and unknown world. And he's really just, a cog in this machine.
Sam has quite a miserable time. A man's dreams not matching up to the reality.
We don't lean on montage that often in the show, partly because montages, to do them right, take a lot of time and a lot of resources. Bernie came to us at one point and she said, we've got 3.5 days scheduled for this montage, which is a long time to shoot what is maybe a 2-minute montage.
In the end, when we cut the scene together, it was hilarious.
Going back to a place that created you and that was the beginning of you and the end of your family is kind of epic.
Danny coming home was a really interesting sequence, and I think what was really lovely was that doing it for Game of Thrones and doing a sequence like that, you can really do it properly. Like, you can really take your time with it. You can really give it its due as a real moment.
Because there's no dialogue, it puts more weight on Emilia, who's doing all of this with her face and her actions and her movement. It puts a lot of weight on the art department because the place itself is really the other main character.
The space has to be something that Daenerys feels very connected to, where everything that she's heard about is suddenly somehow in front of her.
That was exciting to do, and the locations that we shot in Spain for it were absolutely stunningly beautiful.
We had to find somewhere that had a certain weight and power to it. And when we arrived at Zumaya Beach, the geological formations there are so unique and so special and so interesting that they have a weight to them that I think none of us could ignore.
Actually, quite often, we have to split location for the same scene. The end result was we decided that we could do most of what we wanted to do in 2 locations, split between Spain and Northern Ireland.
The arrival is shot in Zumaya. You then get up onto the platform, go up a set of stairs, and then we're on stage here in Belfast. And then once she goes through those doors here, then you pick her up again in San Juan, where she goes up the steps to the castle. Those locations together informed, for me, the whole design of Dragonstone. And it all came from those really unique rock formations, which are so, so special and very unique just to that part of the world.
The Gates of Dragonstone. It's probably going to be on film for about 30 seconds, but so much detail and work went into this set.
2 giant dragon heads were carved by our sculpting team, with the most beautiful, big, massive doors that were designed and built here.
The locations in Spain, had that very strong rock formation, that very strong strataed look.
And we were able to bring in those beautiful geological formations in those side corridors.
We had to use the rocks from the location. We sent out a team of plasterers to Spain. They took impressions of the stone. And from those, we created moulds, and we used those rocky shapes to create the shapes of the corridors and the cave. There's that kind of physical, geological journey that we were able to design. And then that all culminated in the throne room, where we had to create like a new architecture. It's a lot of work. It was very, very labour intensive.
No, I can do it without looking. Looks brilliant.
It's going to be dramatic.
Yeah, it's really dramatic. Yeah, the angles are fantastic.
Dragonstone, of course, had been established in previous seasons before I came, so we had the Dragonstone map room, so it was already established as a cave-like space. So I wanted this set to sort of start in the cave and grow out of it. And then we were able to bring in those beautiful geological formations in that throne, the Dragonstone throne, which I think is, a really powerful sort of statement.
The only directions we gave her was that it should be quite imposing and intimidating, and that the throne would be carved out of the rock, and that was it. And that's all we gave her, and then she went to town with that. The first time we saw it all lit for a scene, that was pretty dramatic.
As we were building it, people would walk through this set and they would feel, I feel very uncomfortable here. It's not a room where I want to spend a lot of time. So it was a new approach to an audience chamber, which was not welcoming people in. It was basically making people feel uneasy and intimidated.
Yeah, I think it's maybe the best set that we've ever built.
It was really impressive. We couldn't wait to shoot it.
The audience chamber is incredible. One of the most staggering sets that I've had the privilege of being in.
Every moment of that journey from the ship to the place where she's actually going to stand and plan her conquest. There's a different flavor to each one of those moments.
And you realize this place where she was born, there was a whole culture there, there's a whole world there, and you get a real taste of it and the uniqueness of it. And the coming home is really very dramatic.
Shall we begin?
The beat drops out.
On the stage today, and I mean that literally, we have Daenerys, we have Cersei, we have Jon Snow, we have Tyrion, to name but a few, all very much on the edge of something disastrous happening.
The mood is somber. It's, you know, world leaders uniting and disagreeing about how the world should be run.
It can go south very quickly, and that's the brilliant part of the sequence, because you know how quickly things can turn on this show.
It's a potential powder keg. So no matter what's happening, no matter who's meeting who, the potential for things to completely explode is always there.
The Dragon Pit is probably one of the most essential sequences in all of Game of Thrones.
Tyrion and his posse, they know they're entering a dangerous place, and they know they're taking a risk coming here.
You have 60+ hours at this point of main characters who you are really invested in, and it's enjoyable to put people together who haven't been together before and see how they would react to each other.
It's people becoming aware of the smallness, I think, in their nature. No matter how much they fight each other, there's a bigger threat to life than just who's on the throne.
You can say to anyone, you know, this disease is coming, but until you can show them evidence, they won't get past their own smaller problems to fight the big problem.
These things build over time, you know. It takes 70 hours to get to this point. It takes 70 hours for the story to allow this scene to happen.
There's a momentum that's up now which doesn't stop. So that's really exciting.
It's incredible because I am the new kid on the block. And I've seen these guys for 6 seasons now. And then all of a sudden being part of the scene, I think this is going to be one of the scenes of this season.
The Dragon Pit epitomizes the central challenge of Season 7, where we have, I don't know, a dozen of our principal characters all in the same place, many of whom haven't seen each other since a very dramatic incident years before between them. So that scene was incredibly tricky to write and incredibly tricky to film.
You want to be able to service all of these characters, and that was tremendously fun to plot out.
Conflicts between people, friendships between people, which ones you wanted to highlight and which ones that you're gonna have to let fall by the wayside.
You have, you know, it seems like dozens of little mini scenes. So we had to find great moments and character interactions and story for all of these characters.
It was just so much fun to write for all these guys together. It kind of forced us to really explore what the different tonal variations were in those reunions.
You know, it's trying to keep an eye on what they're all there for. I mean, they're all there for a reason, which is to discuss the possibility of an alliance and whether that's even possible with these people who have so many reasons for hating each other and so few reasons for trusting each other.
Welcome, my lords.
For Pod to see Tyrion, I mean, that guy was the most important person in the world to him. He was the only person who'd given him a chance.
I'm glad you're alive.
There's something very sweet in it. And amongst all the big stuff, the small stuff still happens as well, and that's what adds to the texture of the show. I think that stuff's never forgotten about.
What's in there? Fuck off.
There's a really wonderful moment where Brienne spies the Hound, and she realizes that she has to sort of apologize, maybe for nearly killing him, maybe. But she also brings to him the news that she knows he wants to hear, that Arya is alive and Arya's home.
Oh, that was a relief. Yeah, of course. And a concern, is she all right?
Who's protecting her if you're here?
The only one that needs protecting is the one that gets in her way.
And then it turns out that we don't need to worry about Arya, because I've taught her everything.
What I love about Tyrion and Bronn's relationship is they know exactly who they are. Tyrion prods him a little bit, how much Bronn is doing things out of self-interest.
Don't you worry about me. I'm doing all right. Looking after myself.
Are you? Helping me to arrange this meeting wasn't exactly looking after yourself, was it?
It's your head Queen Cersei's offered a bag of gold for us, not mine.
Knocks on his tin heart a little bit. Knows there's something in there.
It's good to see you again. Yeah, you too.
You have Cersei seeing Tyrion for the first time in a long time, her mortal enemy. So the first time they lock eyes when she walks in, that's a moment.
It's really awkward. It's like I know family reunions for everyone are very awkward, but let's just say the Lannisters are a complicated bunch.
She's held him responsible for the death of her mother and the death of Joffrey and her father. You know, she can't really take responsibility or deal with her own grief. She has to just blame everybody else, and that's part of her pain too.
Lena gives me a look that I never want to see ever again. It almost flattened me. I wanted to hide.
Met my brother. That was good. I had a standoff with him, which was great fun. That was great. Ignoring a very serious situation, the Hound just goes straight to him and goes, basically, you and me, pal, we haven't finished. You're getting it.
There's a non-verbal 4 or 5 second thing between Cersei, Jaime, and Brienne. That's not even a line of dialogue. It's just a little mini scene built out of looks.
It's sort of like one of the worst things that happens to you at school. I think it's Brienne's idea of absolute abject hell. Fighting the Hound wasn't abject hell, but a moment of having to deal with Jaime and Cersei is the most excruciating thing that could possibly happen to Brienne. She arrives with the Mountain and Jaime and like you say, the Kingsguard, and she's, pretty fierce. And then she realizes that Dany isn't here, and that pisses her off, obviously. And then, of course, Dany arrives on Dragon.
I take Fashionably Late to brand new heights.
She's very theatrical with her entrance, though. Yeah. It's kind of funny that you go, wow, she really has to show off her power, but fair enough.
And she tries desperately to not be impressed by that arrival, and everyone else, obviously, as you would, is standing up in awe of this. And then, in walks this young beauty of a queen, and she's immediately beyond frustrated on many levels.
We've been here for some time. My apologies.
And then all she gets from Dany is apologies, and that then drives her in the scene. She can't bear it.
We have something to show you.
Well, for me, being a horror nerd, I was slightly giggly. So I was like, oh, my very own zombie. She has never, ever seen anything like this before. And this is a creature that defies her. This is a creature she doesn't know how to disable. She doesn't know how to kill. This is something else.
Daenerys has seen it, and she's aware of it, and it's frightening, but she is just watching Cersei. She just needs to know that this has affected her.
She's always had that notion of creatures like this, that they don't exist, and it's nonsense. And so I think when he's there, she's back as a kid, just, realizing everything her grandma, her nannies told her was real. She's staring into a face that she never thought existed.
For Jaime, this is like definite proof that there is no choice. Clearly, this thing, we have to deal with this, and he believes them all. He believes his brother, but he also believes Daenerys and Jon Snow when they say that they saw 100,000 of these beings.
That's where his head is. The world could end in 5 minutes, but he is absolutely one-pointed, focused on, I have never seen this before. This is amazing. I could really do things with this, you know.
There's this beat in the scene that I really love, because I have a line where he's like, he's just seen the White Walker, just died, and he realizes this is the first thing he's ever seen that terrifies him. And that's like a new emotion for him. You know, like, oh, that was an interesting feeling. I'm going back to my island. You should go back to yours. When winter's over, we'll be the only ones left alive.
And then it all rests. Her dragon's death, everything rests on Jon Snow just lying.
The Crown accepts your truce. In return, the King in the North will extend this truce. He will remain in the North where he belongs. He will not take up arms against the Lannisters. He will not choose sides.
They've got a plan of action. And then it all kind of falls apart with Jon's honor again.
It's like, come on, dude. Like, it's all you gotta do. Just this one time, just tell a fib, and he can't. He just can't. Like, that was the bad move. That was a bad choice, but thanks so much.
I am true to my word. Or I try to be. That is why I cannot give you what you ask. I cannot serve two queens.
Tyrion, knowing his sisters so well, knows that that's not going to go over well. And of course, it doesn't. And when Jon does that, the whole thing crumbles. So it's sort of like, I get it, but
Then there is nothing left to discuss.
It is so much fun with all of us all together.
Having been isolated for so long, and then suddenly, boom, I'm working with everybody. It was quite kind of event for me. I loved it.
It's lovely. It's all of us being together. So we're all kind of, you know.
that was really exciting because we are all just a big happy family. And that extended to after work, unfortunately, because we had way too much fun.
You know, usually like here, you're on set and then you have a couple of other actors to hang out with. Suddenly we were like 10, 15 at the same hotel. It was just a recipe for disaster. But it was fun though.
Having been so invested in the show for so long, for so many years, it's just so thrilling. And I was personally very excited to finally meet Daenerys.
And I hope for the fans that they see a satisfying realization of what I think they've all been maybe waiting for, is for these worlds to be collided.
Those 10 days were 10 of the most enjoyable days I've ever spent doing this show, because it's all these people having such an excellent time just being in each other's company. I will never forget those days on that set. They were outstanding.